What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about something pretty crazy that happened. I don't think it actually even really got enough news coverage when it did happen. There were some articles and stuff that came out about it, and some people I think do know, but I think that these are situations that should be much more accounted for, especially considering the fact that it can really have some pretty crazy consequences on the information that we obtain as people and like things that we are told by the media. I feel like everyone's already pretty, distrusting of the government for the most part, which rightfully so. I mean, it makes sense. But on top of that, I feel like people's confidence and trust in the press is also pretty low, especially after the Trump presidency where we've heard things, like fake news. We've seen so many instances of reporters making obvious hit pieces on people in general. Terrible article writing. I mean, it's pretty clear that the media for the most part has been pretty divisive and pretty, I would honestly say, damaging to the general public, but there are instances in which, they shouldn't be targeted in the way that they are. And this really is one of those situations here that's kind of unfolded. Now, this happened recently between the U.S. Department of Justice and USA Today regarding a story that was written about an incident that happened in Florida back in February. So there's honestly a lot to unpack, and I kind of want to break this down chronologically, I guess, so let's go ahead. The constant threat of oversight for your online life is a perfect reason on why you should download Dashlane today. Dashlane is a secure, easy-to-use everyday tool for your PC, phone, or tablet. Dashlane saves you time and headaches by auto-generating your passwords and stores all of them for a simple one-click login process. Using Dashlane, you don't have to waste time resetting passwords or manually entering credit card information. It just works with 2 clicks. In addition to storing your digital information, Dashlane has a built-in VPN to prevent you from being tracked online. Dashlane's encryption makes it one of the most secure ways to store your digital information as well. You can try Dashlane for free on your first device at www.dashlane.com/Optimus, and if you decide you want to upgrade to premium so that you can use Dashlane everywhere, you can use my code Optimus for 10% off. Thank you to Dashlane for sponsoring the video. So back in February, the USA Today publication put out an article about an incident that happened in Florida regarding the FBI and a suspect in a CP case. If you don't know what CP stands for, consider yourself lucky. It's pretty disgusting and terrible. Now, this story was published on February 2nd, 2021. It was national news, categorized under usatoday.com. It basically was chronicling the events that happened in a shooting in southern Florida that unfortunately killed 2 FBI agents and wounded 3 other people. A very tragic incident that unfolded but was reported on by the news, and the reasoning behind everything that kind of unfolded here is pretty odd, right? We don't really seem to know the full intent behind why this was even a big deal. Unfortunately, here in the United States, right, the media reports on things like this all the time. I mean, I feel like if you go and look at the national news, pretty much every time you look, you're going to see news about like a mass shooting, a tragic incident somewhere, right? Like, it just seems like it's kind of become a pretty unfortunate norm in society. So I'm not totally sure what about this article and instance in particular was really enough to honestly justify everything that kind of happened afterwards, but yeah, the USA Today puts this article out. And might I add, before we even go any further in all of this, the suspect in this entire incident actually ended up taking their own lives with a self-inflicted gunshot wound while this whole tragedy kind of unfolded. So the government really has no excuse of like, oh, we were trying to find information about the suspect, right? Because that would make more sense, and it seems like a pretty reasonable request, I guess. But even if that were the case, it doesn't explain why they went so far, why they were trying to include pretty much everybody who read this article. And then considering the fact that the suspect isn't even alive anymore and can't really be charged or tried or anything, finding this kind of information about the suspect isn't even really possible. But after this article was published and everything kind of came out, the U.S. Department of Justice and the FBI actually took steps to subpoena information about readers of this article. Now, this was all taking place in a federal district court in Washington, D.C., where actually the USA Today grouping kind of filed a motion asking for the judge to drop the subpoena, claiming that it was unconstitutional and even violated the Justice Department's own internal rules. The FBI has failed to demonstrate compliance with United States Attorney General's regulations for subpoenas to the press, regulations that President Biden himself recently pledged that the administration would follow. Gannett's lawyers wrote in the motion filed May 28th, a day before the deadline the FBI set for the media company to produce the records. The subpoena issued in April demands the production of records containing IP addresses and other identifying information, quote, for computers and other electronic devices that accessed the story during a 35-minute time frame starting at 8:03 p.m. on the day of the shooting. Now, according to the FBI in Maryland, the records were supposed to relate to a criminal investigation. They gave no context as to how gathering the information and IP addresses of all of the readers of this article during this 35-minute time frame would in any way pertain to any criminality, and also provided no context on what exactly they were looking for. Were they looking for a specific person, a couple of people? Who really knows? The fact of the matter, though, is that thousands of people's information could have been accessed by the government simply for reading an article. Now, this is absolutely insane, because first and foremost, obviously, the vast majority of people that their information would have been involved in this situation obviously had nothing to do with the crime. For the most part, they were likely just average US citizens or readers or whatever of this information that were just reading into the story that they saw on the internet somewhere. The government truly had absolutely no reason to issue such a subpoena to try and read into it this deeply. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, Optimus, what's the big deal, right? What's the problem? What can really be done? It's just IP addresses. Well, this was identifying information, and what this really kind of symbolizes is an attack on the press by the government, okay? Now let me explain this to you. According to the World Press Freedom Index, the United States ranks 44th out of 180 countries for freedom of the press in 2021, getting a score of 23.93. Now to compare, the United Kingdom got 33, France got 34, Spain got 29, Australia got 25, Germany got 13, China got 177th, Russia got 150th, North Korea got 179th, while the Nordic countries largely took the top 5. So, the United States, while a constitutional protection, obviously, in the First Amendment guarantees freedom of the press and whatnot, is not necessarily the best place on earth to be a reporter in the first place. And when you're trying to do your job, you're trying to present information and write articles and things like that, and you have the federal government subpoenaing the personal information of your readers, that creates fucking scare in the population, because it's like, well, if I read the wrong thing, the government might start watching me. If I read the wrong people, the government will start watching me. These are largely issues that you would think of in like dictatorships like North Korea, where it's like, well, if I read the wrong information, the government's going to come after me. And these are the kind of fears that things like this can start here in the United States. I mean, me personally, if I knew, for instance, that CNN was being completely watched by the government and readers of their articles were having their information pulled by the government, I would not be reading any CNN at all. There would be no chance. And for a lot of people, that's largely the same situation. So, good news is the fight against this subpoena by USA Today actually ended up winning. So the government was unable to actually issue this subpoena and get the information that they wanted, but this is one instance of the government doing shit like this in recent years that is starting to kind of add up to a distrust of the government and what they have against the media, and what personally I see as attacks on the freedom of press. And this is not a partisan thing. This has happened on both sides of the aisle for the last few administrations. This happened during the Biden administration, obviously, who is a Democrat, but Donald Trump also, with his Department of Justice and with his administration, took steps that were definitely very suspicious against the media. In fact, just before the Trump administration's term ended, it came out that they had been secretly obtaining the phone records of journalists that worked for CNN, the New York Times, and the Washington Post. Then the New York Times came out and said that during the Biden administration, which is the most recent one, obviously, they had been continued to be pressed for email logs for 4 of their reporters. And even during the Obama administration, there have been instances where they had done some pretty shady shit. In fact, Obama's Justice Department had been digging into confidential communications between different news organizations and their sources. In 2013, the Obama administration obtained the record of 20 Associated Press office phone lines and the reporters' home and cell phones without notice as part of an investigation into information about a foiled Al-Qaeda terrorist attack. So this is something that's been going on for years, and if you think this is a recent issue, you would be dead fucking wrong, but it doesn't mean this isn't something that people should notice. Even if you distrust the media, I think we can all agree that the constitutional right to the freedom of press is extremely important to the country itself, and in general is a right that should be protected, and the government should be prevented from acting this way. Sure, are there legitimate reasons why the government would want to subpoena information? Absolutely, and I can understand that, but when they've had a very consistent record of getting even personal information about reporters and people reading articles and things like that, I think that's going way too fucking far. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like. Subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel. Follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @subtooptimus. Make sure to check out Shop Opti down below. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, well, saying something about it and signing out.